And in terms of quality, what is your learning when you went around and you've been a consultant in addition to being in industry? So how do you see a convergence of consultancy and industry, and then in a public service like planning commission, how do we converge together towards a common goal?
Hmm. I was with Tata's for 25 years, and in 1989, some family health issues required that we take care of our daughter in the US. So I had to, go and earn in the US, because those days, Tatas would want very much to be able to give me money to look after my daughter and my son there, but they not allowed. So I had to go earn myself. And J.R.D. Tata said to me that, look, these things happen in life circumstances. You're poised to be perhaps the chief of Tata Motors or something, but we can find another Myra because we got a good system. Your daughter needs you; she'll never find another father. This is the stage in life. You've got to go look after your daughter, and to look after her, you have to earn some money so that you can provide for her care, and your wife will be with you and your son too, and look after the family in a strange land. I was 45 years old, been on the board of Tata Motors already for 8 years, and other Tata companies. It was fine. And in a strange land, I'm talking of the 1980s, where India's the dark ages, it's still the sort of socialist and so on. He said that no big company is going to give you a decent job. I think you should consider joining a consulting company. However, who knows, the consulting company probably also wants someone who's already very experienced in things that American companies want. But there's this company called Arthur D. Little, who were consultants to the government of India in the science policy. And JRD, is one of the fathers of India's science policy, along with Homi Bhabha and Nehru. And so I know them. I'll just write a note to them that our best young chappie has some circumstances. If you would consider interviewing him, and he might be useful to you. Fortunately, there was on the other side a person who had worked in telco in our research division, a senior MIT PhD, and he was now a senior person in Arthur D. Little. So he knew Tata and knew me also. So he told the company, please interview him. So I got selected into Arthur D. Little. But the point was this: I have to sell myself into American companies, the big companies. What would they want advice from an Indian guy who's run a factory in India? Well, India kya hai? Nothing. That's the time the quality movement was invading America. I'm talking late 1980s, because the Japanese had shown America that they can beat them in everything by quality management. And as you remember the Plaza Accords, Americans just felt that they're manipulating their currency and made them appreciate their currency by twice, and yet the Japanese kept beating the Americans. And so I was invited to run the manufacturing practice, if you will. And you can imagine the crazy idea of Arthur D. Little. You're getting an Indian manufacturing manager to teach Americans how to do manufacturing, but their thesis was that it's to do with quality, which I had learned very well in Japan and been part with you the movement of getting Indians to understand the essence of quality management is people and learning. So I got in there, and Arthur D. Little got a huge project with the Ford Motor Company to improve quality. Since that project already sold, they included me on it to teach at least our Arthur D. Little team or the essence of quality. So I was there at all our internal and meetings with the client, including the CEO of Ford, and listening to their discourse. Like they had made it like people's quality movement used to be, that there'll be a person in charge of the quality in the company, maybe on the board level because it's so important. He's given a budget, and then there'll be a training program for everybody. The board must be trained in quality, the workers must be trained in quality, this thing called quality, standard programs, 1 week and this and that and the tools and so on. And Ford had engaged Deming himself or Juran, I forget which of the two, to do this program. And at that time, the National Public Television, National Public Radio, they were interviewing big American companies to find out whether the Americans were learning how to catch up with the Japanese. So Ford, naturally being the largest, along with GM auto company, and had taken an official thing that we are going to qualitize the whole of Ford. This is an interview with Juran on
Deming. It was with
Deming,
Deming.
sorry, Deming.
National Broadcasting Corporation.
You
If
got it
Japan
right.
can, why can't we? Was the title of that.
That's right, huh? Thank you. He knows history of quality more than anyone in the world. Deming, I thought it was Deming. Deming. And in this thing, which everybody was told when he's being interviewed, all offices must shut for half an hour. Everybody must switch on a TV. All workers on the floor to get it from the guru's head. And the interviewer asks him, to Deming, that have they got it? And Deming, old man at the time, he had tears in his eyes. He said, no, they think quality is in the numbers. It is in the people. And you know, the quality movement then, and with G, it became into the Six Sigma. In India also, unfortunately, it became all about statistics and statistical analysis and, figuring out which interventions to do. It is true that our simple tools of quality, our 7 tools, are simple methods for people to take evidence and put it into some logic. You don't need to have big data statistical models. In fact, if you have them, you get totally confused and so on. So this was what I then got it, and my team realized that what this guru had said in tears, I have been saying all this time. And then they had visited our telco factories at the time that earlier, because they wanted to sell work to telco, both McKinsey and these people. But this is what they had seen in telco. Everybody seemed to be engaged. There were little circles, there were little boards on the floor, quiet, extremely clean, and that always impressed them. That how come it's a factory? How come it's as spotlessly clean as a Western hospital? And Mulgaonkar had this. He said, you will understand quality if you can create quality which matters to you in your own lives. Everybody likes to live in a clean space. I want to be in a clean space. And so if you enable people to clean up their own place, the whole factory will be clean. And for the whole factory, when it becomes clean, there's no waste. And this is the thesis of quality. So this book called I Know It When I See It, John Gosperi's book, Mulgaonkar gave to me when I was on Pune. And he said, you're interested in quality. And this is when I had gone to Japan and there I did meet Ishikawa, and we had a lesson from him too. What does he say? This book is about a pencil factory. Okay, now this is interesting. Adam Smith wrote his book with the example of the pin factory. And the pin factory, he said, if you divide the operations into specific tasks, then each worker will do his task more accurately and efficiently, and the whole factory will be better off. And the measure of the quality of the factory was ultimately the efficiency of the factory. So that's quality, Six Sigma. He says, I know it when I see it. So here is a manager like Mulgaonkar himself. It could be him. He says, I go around and I know it when I see it. And the evidence of it is, he would always say, something seems to be out of place. Something seems to be out of place. So that's why he said, if we can make our factories as clean as a German hospital, for which everybody has to participate, they will be very proud of where they are and comfortable where they are also. And B, our quality will have improved. So, when I was with Ford and the other places, and I began to point this out, that if you had ever been, like I had been, to a Japanese factory, and some Ford guy he had retired by the time, I said I was quite amused by the questions that he asked the head of Ono in the Toyota place. He said, okay, translation, we went around and we didn't see any computers or anything, and no fancy equipment. But we were shown, privileged, the 30 of us, with the permission of Toyota, the world's best factory, maybe it's Toyota. And so when the question time came, this guy gets up and asks to the director of Toyota, he said, what computers are you using? Hmm? So the fellow says, he says, no, but how do you manage the information about quality? Hmm? So he said, we showed it to you in some, and they put up that Kanban card. Hmm? And the card, as you know, the name of the part and the quantity there. And so, answer given. This fellow still standing speaks in English, big American English, and saying, they are the damn Japanese. They never tell you the real truth, do they? He couldn't get the real truth. It's not about the numbers. It's like you to your point about I'm part of a system and the minimum amount of information that the other needs to send me for me to do a better job for them, I should get it. And I, in turn, should analyze what is the minimum I should ask the someone behind. So you don't need so much data floating around. It's just the right thing. You understand the system. You see? So that took off. Thereafter, I became the guru and writing books in America about the accelerating organization, how people learn and organizations learn, and so on. And it changed the value I could give, but it was equally true when I joined BCG, which was later, that BCG, McKinsey are strategy consulting firms, and they deal with the CEO who wants to see his share prices increase, and they had concepts like total shareholder value, measure everything by how it adds up to total shareholder value. This is not going to improve the lives of people, and it makes your own company very fragile. This is what we are suffering from now. So, come back to, I would say, our business community, business leaders and management schools, they need to change their mind. Dr. Manmohan Singh, I got that in that book there too. He was invited by CII in 2007. Hmm? Remember, 1991, he's the hero. 2004, election won, he's appointed prime minister. The world was delighted it was him, prime minister, not Sonia Gandhi, because she's a socialist and he's a liberal capitalist. So he's invited by CI, like, thank you very much for giving us the freedom. Big hall in the Taj Palace, and huge hall, 1,000 people, all members of CI. In the front row, he's there. Sunil Muttal, Sesha Sai, who that time was the president. Mr. Munjal sitting my side, Rahul Bajaj sitting on my other side, both senior industrial people. I grown up with them. When Munjal was older, Rahul was my age or a little older. We were like friends who built quality in India, if you could say, in industry in India. And so in the front row, and some others around him. And he gives this speech, and he's invited to say that, sir, you are our guru and you're the economist in the world, and so on. Look what you've done for India. We've invited you to please give us some lessons, our guru. He said, I'm giving you 10 commandments. Amongst his commandment was that in a country which is so poor and people still aren't earning enough, please don't spend too much on yourself. This show of wealth and expensive weddings is vulgar. Says so. Number two, there are people who historically have not been able to get, he's talking of the Dalits and the others. Please go out of your way, give them a chance, respect and a chance to learn, which they miss otherwise. All these, he read 10 such principles out. When he finished his speech, Munjal and Rahul were crying with tears to say, thank goodness we have a leader like this. Narayan Murthy and others who weren't in the hall, but they were interviewed by the media immediately, Bangalore types, Nandan, Narayan, and so on, they were alarmed. He's taking us back into socialism. We thought, Arey, he's a turncoat. He always was a socialist. And so he refused to come to the next meeting of CII. 2 years later, Sunil Mittal became, and he's Delhi based, so he said, we have to make up with the Prime Minister. He asked Dr. Manmohan Singh, would you please come? And this time the government got the Vigyan Bhavan for him, the Prime Minister. And by this time, I had written a book called Transforming Capitalism, Improving the World for Everyone. And in that book, I had included his speech of how little people had absorbed. And this is what's going wrong in the world, and it's gone much worse since then. But this was that time. So my book is to be released, let's say. I suggested to Sunil that since you want to make up with him, please allow him to receive the first copy of my book before it is released. Now, everyone said that this is never done, that when the Prime Minister officially releases a book, so all right, it won't be a release, you're right. But can CII, me, gift him the first copy? So, before the meeting, when the meeting started, I was put into the whole security line in the front to say, inside your book, is there any bomb? Is there any something? And so on. This is you're going to give. Now you just give it to him, let him hold it, and leave your hand, meaning to all this instruction I'm given. I go up to the stage and, of course, go to Manmohan Singh and I give him this book. And I've got the picture in my study here. And he picks it and he says to me, I said, sir, I wrote it because what you said to us, CI, 2 years ago, is the most profound lesson in statesmanship and policy that anyone in the world has given in the last 30 years. And it's there. So he looked in gentle eyes and a little tear like seemed to be coming in his eyes. And I said, it's at the back there. See, opened and that took a time, you see. Now the security people say, get off. But he says, where is it? So I said, back, and they're pulling me away. We go away. That's my contact. I'm saying 2 years later, when I retired from BCG, I'm off in Prague, retiring finally. I get a call from Montek. The morning we land up there, saying, Arun, the Prime Minister wants to invite you to join the Planning Commission. I said, don't pull my leg, yaar. I've never worked in government. I'm not an economist. He said, no, seriously, please, would you? So I won't elaborate the story, but I did accept immediately to serve the country. Of course, who would refuse this, considering my ambition? I did. When I came back to Delhi immediately to say, sir, I think you might have made a mistake. My name is spelled Maira. मैं वो पेशावर वगैरह से हूँ. मेरा नहीं है, हमारी बरादरी है, but you know. So he smiled. He said, Arun, I know you very well. I've got your book here. He had that book, and I want to thank you. I want you, therefore, in the Planning Commission. Because since you're from industry, I want you to be the insider to tell industry that unless they change what they're doing, this country won't be good for them. It won't be good for anybody. Right now, we are in that point, chasing GDP and deregulate for industry, land, farm laws, and labor laws, and so on. And we know that. The incomes are not rising. Unless incomes rise, where's the investment going to come? The industry people are not fools. They're not doing charity. You've got to pick up. Yeah? People who want to learn from wherever they are. An agriculture person can learn simple manufacturing. He's not going to be able to learn what happens in an Infosys white office.
See, the point which you mentioned, information availability, and about this particular book, if I can share a few thoughts on that. Now, go till I see it. There's a 3 Gen principle. The real thing.
Real place.
The real place, real fact.
Yes.
We have in India one of the most powerful computer systems in the world in the companies. Management system design, information system. But the person who is to act on it on the shop floor has no idea of information that he needs.
You know, but I'm to the Planning Commission. So we have models, and economics has become completely mathematical. And economics uses more mathematics than physicists use nowadays. Keep inventing new maths to do things. When I joined the Planning Commission, and Montek is the vice chairman, Kasturi Rangan, eminent physicist,
Yes.
space scientist, he was also there, in charge of science. I'm in charge of industry and urbanization in the Planning Commission. And we have the other economists all around us and social scientists and so on. Montek had taken a commission from, this was the second term of his Planning Commission, to commission various Indian think tanks, NCAR, ICRIER and all, to develop a more robust model of the Indian economy so that with the right statistics, they could predict next quarter's results and what the growth might be. Because they always get it wrong anyway. So this was a big exercise amongst economic think tanks and so on. So they were being funded to produce this, and some competition who produced the best. So one day, Montek says, look, they're coming to present their finals. And would Kasturi Rangan and I, please, being physicists, and physicists are supposed to be the best modelers, sit and listen to them and then, give our views. So I'm sitting, Montek is here. I happen to sit next to Montek and Kasturi Rangan on my right. And these guys, is Sujit Bhalla with his models and someone else with his models, and all of them, numbers, flashes, graphs, and X's and Y's, the economics equations. After some time, old Kasturi Rangan, such a sweet old man, he turns to me, Arun, do you know what they're talking about? I said, I haven't a clue, frankly. He said, this is what why don't they just use some common sense? And this is what has happened. That, just apply simple common sense. And who has common sense? If you ask poor people, कि खास बात क्या है, क्या हो रहा है, the real place, the real people, you'll really understand. But we don't want to. We want to convert them into numbers and take some data out of them through our smart information systems, which we have now. Financialize the information about them and then try to make a model and then say, now I've got, you can easily get more money on the banking system. Yeah, but I need to have some money in my bank account first to be able to draw it. Yeah, I don't have enough wealth.
Okay, Arun, now we've spent a good deal of time. So maybe your concluding thoughts on this whole subject that we've talked about.
Thank you, Janak. It's been a very thought-provoking discussion, and as you could see, I get very passionate about certain things, and I know you are about the same things. And just overall, the big picture that's emerging in my mind. The world is having many, many, many problems. And we have, as a set of countries around the world, agreed that there is a set of sustainable development goals a few years ago, all intergovernment agreement with a lot of participation of NGOs and business associations, that the whole world needs to achieve these 17 sustainable development goals. What are the goals about? A fair number of them are about environment and climate related issues, about carbon and pollution and oceans being polluted and degrading soils. Fair amount of them are to do with economic issues, poverty, inequality. Fair number of them about governance issues, lack of access to public health and education. So there are a variety of problems. It's a polycrisis, as people say. And all these problems need to be solved simultaneously. You cannot solve, for example, the climate problem making poverty worse for some people, because that is even worse problem for some people than the climate is for them. So all of them have to be solved simultaneously. In other words, the world is a very complex system in which there are many, many things that are interacting with each other, and you can't fix one thing ignoring the others. Otherwise, the unintended consequences, the second order effects, can make something else much worse. So here we have this. The people make estimates, as you know, by saying how much progress has been made against the SDGs, the 16 or 17, or 17th is about collaboration, the 16th and let's say the 17th also, and some mathematical way of accessing this month, this month, this much. Overall, at the pace at which we are going, how long will it take us to achieve all the SDGs? The last estimate made the year before last or last year, we are supposed to achieve the SDGs by 2030. So if we keep carrying on the way we are, we may not even achieve them by 2087. Now, if by 2087 the climate hasn't been attended to, or the malnutrition and poverty in Africa and Gaza and all has not been attended to, the world is not going to be the world. We probably already passed that stage. So as Einstein said, you cannot solve the big problems that you're having with the same thinking that led you to those problems. So time has come to rethink how we solve complex problems. The present way, the scientific way, is that you divide the problem into its parts Each part requires a specialization and special knowledge to solve it. So we have climate experts, we have industry experts, education experts, health experts, financial experts, water management experts, and so on. So when people get together, they know that they are doing the right thing by choosing one of these big problems and saying, we together, mean the NGOs in it, the government departments in it, the businesses who have an interest in that subject, together we will solve this problem. So there's collaboration, yes, across the sectors, but to solve a particular problem. And the theory is that you need expertise to solve complex problems. So who has the expertise? So you get all the research scientists and so on. And so each of these problems is being solved scientifically with people working collaboratively to solve them. This approach is an unsystemic approach. It is fixing parts of the problems without understanding the interconnections amongst them. So, around the world, climate problems exist in various ways around the world. When you talk about pollution, it is very true that the cities in India may be more polluted than cities elsewhere, but it's equally true that while cities in the United States may not be that polluted, they are having intense heat problems or water shortage problems like in California. So there are environmental problems exist in different forms all around the world. Similarly, if you talk about access to sufficient social security, US has as much of a problem as we have. However, their solution can't be the same as ours because we don't have enough resources to, just give away, which the US may have, and so on. So the problems exist everywhere, but in different forms. And once again, I remind you can't solve the social security problem in the US without fixing its own finance and budget problems.
Yeah.
And you can't solve the poverty problems in the US without please taking attention to the environmental problems in the communities, wherever they are. So this means that these 17 problems do combine in different ways to produce different real life situations. You remember what you said about the real place? In real places, the system has very different configurations, though it includes the same 17 variables. A mathematical thing which I've done, and you could do it, there are 94 million combinations possible of 17 variables taken even 7 at a time. If on the assumption I say that, well, 6 or 7 of those problems at this moment don't matter in Kerala or don't matter in Colorado, most of the others are still mattering. So just take 7, 94 million. Now you cannot have one size fits solutions for 94 million problems. Each locality will have to improve its system itself. The locality and the people in it, they are the system, they are in the system. So the solutions to these global problems are local system solutions found by communities and implemented cooperatively by communities. What is then the role of the experts? Not to tell them by the model to say, here, I'm giving you the information which might help you, is to learn from them how they manage a system. And if you have something which might be useful to them to help them manage the system, you ask their permission and don't just impose it because, I'm from PhD from Harvard and I've got the Bill Gates Foundation's millions of dollars on the government of India, which is the present situation. We just think the experts know how to solve the problem, which is Einstein's problem. That you better give up this theory of expertise and how you manage complex problems. The people themselves, as I found, and I've been working now with communities and through organizations, working with communities around India and other poorer countries too, the people's view of the problem and the frugal solution, the right resilient solution to the problem is always the best. And it's never the same as elsewhere, except one principle is common. Listen to us, let us listen to each other, and we will figure out the solution. Please stop imposing your money on us, and with the money comes what you think I should do. So, but why does that persist? Why is it that the people on the top, whether they are experts in knowledge or chaps with money or people with government authority keep imposing themselves. It's a matter of power. Yeah, those who have the power should, and they want to exercise their power on behalf of everybody. But their knowledge is not the accurate knowledge. So we come to this question about making policy and change, that unfortunately, policies are made by the people presently in power. The present people in the corporate sector are consulted. If the Prime Minister has to consult, कि business के लिए क्या अच्छा है, do you think he's calling the small scale fellows in their millions? If he says what is good for the farmers, do you think he's calling the thousands and millions of farmers? No, they are a problem. They don't understand progress. Let's call these experts of Gulati and others who got so you get it?
Yeah.
And so the process of developing policy must listen to the people at the bottom.